You've had a garden for any period of time like I have, you know that you are going to get pests, you're going to get diseases, you're going to get death, and you're going to notice things periodically. It may not be all one year, it may be part some years, but at some point you're going to have an issue and you're going to need to solve it. And that is what we want to do today. I'm not even going to hem and haw about it. If you don't want to watch the whole video and you just want to know what it is, it's prevention. Prevention is everything. You got to stop the problem before it starts, and absolutely before it takes hold in your garden. So for instance, today we are going to stop our disease before it starts on our tomatoes. These tomatoes need to be caged. They're not quite ready for this, but these absolutely are. So these are our determinant tomatoes, and a lot of the disease comes from water. And it can be all kinds of water. It can be water from your sprinkler, water from the rain. In our case, it's high humidity levels. What we want to do is simply stop that from being a problem. And that can happen a number of ways. So the first thing we do, man, I busted my knee the other day surfing. It hurts, but we're good. The first thing we want to do is we want to lay this mulch down, okay? We've laid the mulch down, and what that does is that eliminates the water from splashing back up on the leaves. And, you know, from the dirt, so soil-borne illnesses and stuff don't get on the leaves. But you can see we've got a lot of leaves here. So what I do is I come through and I just clean up the bottom 6 inches, and this is all that I do to trim my tomatoes. Because these are determinant tomatoes, that's all I do. And there's actually a pretty solid argument on whether or not you should be trimming your tomatoes at all, no matter what, but we'll leave that for another video. And just like that, it's all done. So you can see we've cleared up the first 6 inches here, and what that's going to do is that's going to allow the air to flow underneath. And then even if water does bounce up, which invariably it will, that wind will dry the bottom of the leaves up more so. And we can continue to do a little bit, like where it gets all balled up in here. We could trim a little bit out. Like if you see a specific branch like that, that's just clogging it up real bad, you can clear that out too. But I try not to do too much for these indeterminate tomatoes. And this really helps cut down the disease issues and stuff like that. When it comes to preventing diseases and stuff like that, the key is to really understand what causes that disease. What's the root cause of it? And what do you usually fight with? So for us, with the tomatoes, for instance, we usually fight with the waterborne disease, and it's usually when the humidity comes. So by doing that, what we've done is we've been able to delay it by about a month. Invariably, it's going to happen, but we delay it so we can continue to get a harvest and have it grow even more. Now, there's other forms of, you know, ways disease can get in. You know, like you have soil-borne, and a really common one is insect-borne diseases. For instance, I came out here and we've got the squash beetle here. So you can see we got this little guy here. Looks like a ladybug, but it is not. And what happens is they can transfer diseases directly to your plants as well by chewing on the leaves and transferring them via their mouths. They got dirty little mouths. So it's just a simple walkthrough, doing exactly what I just did, pulling out any that you see and see how they hide. And so this is a little bit, the sun's not really hitting them right now, so they're a little bit more docile, but then you'll end up seeing eggs under the leaves and stuff like that. So we know that we need to treat for this, and what I'm going to use is neem oil because it's a hard-bodied insect. So that hard-bodied insect will be affected by the neem oil. We spray it, we take care of it. Now, I'm not advocating, and I never really advocate for a preventative pest treatment necessarily. I don't think it's really, you know, I don't think you have to do that. If you have something that you just know is absolutely susceptible to disease, then by all means treat for it ahead of time, or by pests or even disease. You know, you can treat ahead of time, but you want to be really certain. I just don't like spraying stuff if I don't need to, even though it's all organic and all that stuff. I just don't need it. So we just go through and we do stuff like that, and we just take a walk through our garden. We're constantly being vigilant. So, you know, we'll walk through here and you may look at the taters here and say, oh, well, they're starting to look pretty weak. Well, they're coming up to their life cycle. So our harvest date's about a month out, and these are looking just about like they should. They will start to fall over, and then we know that it is time to harvest. So we're just kind of letting them go at this point. I have been seeing this caterpillar, and I'm not sure what it is. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research. I don't usually touch hairy caterpillars because, you know, they could be poisonous to some extent. So I just crushed it in the leaves here, got rid of it. But otherwise, I haven't seen too much of it and any other damage, but we keep an eye on it. We do have something that's been chewing on the leaves, which I imagine that was the culprit there. So as we go through, we'll look more and more and see if there's any more in there. Going back to diseases, there is one thing. If you have a waterborne disease, for instance, let's come over here and look at this these squashes. One thing we know about squashes is they have really big surface area on the leaves, so they can collect a lot of water. Well, what's a common disease you can get? Yes, powdery mildew. So keeping the water off of the leaves is the most optimum thing. And this is where your spacing is like your first method of defense. So we space them out so the air can flow through, and then that will help with it too. But then keeping the water off of the leaves via the way that you water or something like that. Look at this buckwheat here from last year. We got to get rid of that. So that's why we switched to our in-ground irrigation. It keeps the water off of the leaves. Now, the problem is at some point you're going to get a good soaking of rain. It might last a couple days and the leaves just won't dry out, and then you're going to have to deal with it. But you minimize that problem every step you take. So we're taking those steps to do so by keeping the water off the leaves the rest of the time. So when nature decides to saturate them, at least we don't already have a budding problem that's just going to get worse and worse and worse. I haven't kept up with my treating over here, and I did see this is becoming an issue. So, you know, this has to go. This is infested. So we'll remove that, and we'll feed that to the chickens, but that's being infested. That's just going to cause even more problems, and this is still a method of prevention. So prevention is everything. If you don't let it become a problem, then it's not going to be a problem. And that's really, really important. There's all kinds of ways you can do this. You know, if you know, for instance, that the heat is going to be a problem, then start preventing the heat from being a problem by adding mulch, by adding shade, by watering more, by cooling the roots. You know, and that seems counterintuitive. Depending on the life cycle of your plant, you could miss the leaves. I know I just told you, well, don't get them wet, but at the same token, if you've got lettuce or you've got broccoli or something right now that doesn't like the heat, those don't typically get affected by fungal diseases such as powdery mildew and stuff like that. So you can do that. Not to mention, if it's starting to get affected by the heat, but it's already starting to produce your final product, then you don't really have to worry about the disease setting in at the time. So you could do stuff like that. Now, going back to the pests, I told you this is going to be all over the place. We just want to keep a vigilant eye and be able to treat when we need to treat. That's so important. But there's other things that we can do about pests as well. There's nothing more susceptible to pests than the squash. It's got the squash vine borer, and it's attracted to the yellow leaves. So you can set out traps, right? I don't do that because I've just come to grips with the situation. But when I had lived in another place up north, I lived in Massachusetts and gardened up there, we had a lot of slugs. So we would set traps for slugs and just go ahead. You knew you were going to have the problem of it early in the spring, into all spring. So what we would end up doing is we would take a board and we would lay it right here, and we would water the ground, put the board on top, and then we would come out every couple days, and then we would pull up the board and kill all the slugs underneath it, and that would be our trap, and that would work for us all the time. So, you know, we did stuff like that, and we just knew that that was going to be an issue. Just like, look at what else I see. There you go. So what we're going to do for this now, because now I've seen 2 of those caterpillars, is one, I need to identify what the caterpillar is, what it produces, but two, what we're gonna do is we're gonna treat with BT out here because that's a soft-bodied insect killer, and that will wipe out all of that. But now we've seen it twice, so we need to do that. And it looks like it's been affecting this okra a little bit, so we need to do something about that. I just noticed this. It's been kind of drowned out by all of this, so we'll have to do that. Now, we do know the squash vine borer is on its way, but we were already starting to produce zucchinis and squashes, so we're not overly concerned. We'll get our harvest by the time they come, and then we'll be able to pull all of these plants out and take care of them as we go through. And these little squash beetles, this is the damage they cause. So if you see that, you know that you have an issue. I'm telling you, it's just a matter of time before you have an issue in the garden. Every year it just comes with the territory, right? So we know too that our green beans, which are just starting to climb, will end up getting Japanese beetles right around June. So what do we do then? We set everything up and we get prepared for it. So we can do a treatment of neem oil. Usually I don't treat with neem oil. If something else needs to be treated out here, then I'll go ahead and I'll put those in the rotation just to kind of help. But we'll set up something that, like a bucket of water, so we can be hand picking those Japanese beetles as soon as they come, because those absolutely did transfer mosaic virus to our trellis one year, to the point to where we had to remove the trellis completely because we just had crops constantly getting used to it over and over and over, and they just kept getting infected. Another thing you can do for pests is eliminate places for them to hide. So this bed is going to be very difficult, but again, this potato bed is coming to its fruition. There's not a lot of time left for it, so we're not overly concerned about this one. But what I mean by this is, for instance, we planted corn in this row. We did a double row here and a double row there, and in the middle we didn't. So what we want to do is we want to keep it well weeded so those pests don't have anywhere to hide until the corn comes up, and that way they're not really setting their feet in and getting real comfortable. So we're trying to eliminate that whole issue before it even starts. And so right now, like, we're gonna leave the middle here, and what we're gonna end up doing in the middle of this bed is, once the corn gets to about calf high, maybe even knee high, then we're gonna plant buckwheat in the middle. But what we'll do in the meantime is we're gonna make sure that this stays pretty well weeded. I'm not worried about this. I mean, I'll pull it right now, but it's not a big deal because nothing's really going to hide there, but you don't want it to be a solid mat, right? So for instance, we have this bed over here that needs to be switched over to our sweet potatoes, and we've got these weeds that have been growing. So this is ripe for pests to get in and hide. So we're going to be clearing this whole bed out probably this weekend and getting it all ready for sweet potatoes, if not planting the sweet potatoes, and then that will help keep that at bay. You know, another thing that you could be preventing is, if you know, for instance, you're later in the season and the cold weather is coming and you know that you're going to be getting that cold weather, go ahead and get everything set up and start preventing that cold from hitting it, right? Put your covers up early. Get them in place. If you know it's going to get to 32 degrees, but hey, you know what? Cabbages can make it below 32 degrees, no problem. Why not try and keep them above 32 for as long as you can to continue that nice strong growth in that happy zone that they can get in? You know, all of these things are important. So what we're doing is you're preventing every hurdle that the garden can have, and this comes in time. So you'll see something this year and you'll say, hey, this happened last year, it happened this year, okay, this is how I'm going to treat for it, this caused it, then I can do this, I can do that, and you try and stay one step ahead at all times of your garden. And this is really important, and it is the one thing that it's this it seems like a lot of work until you get the issue and it takes hold, and either A, you lose your entire crop, or B, you just fight and fight constantly to defeat it. So doing a little bit of work up front can make all the difference in the world, and it just makes for a healthier plant, because what we're doing is we're making it so that it can continue to grow unimpeded and have as minimal stress on that plant as possible. Invariably there's going to be stress, but we're going to introduce as little stress as possible. If you have anything in your garden that's really difficult for you to beat, what is that? Let us know in the comments. And what are you taking to prevent it? What steps are you doing to prevent it? Let people know in the comments, because everybody's got a question and somebody out there has got an answer. I can't answer all of it. And you guys are very good at what you do. And we all deal with different hurdles in our gardens, but preventing it will stop it from being a major problem.